Guys, welcome to a classic film review of 1976's Taxi Driver, starring Robert De Niro, Jodie Foster and Cybill Shepherd. Now, this was directed by Martin Scorsese and it's the story of a Vietnam veteran working as a New York cab driver. Now, this guy is so disgusted with society that he sees around him and his place in it that he decides to clean up the streets, his mission leading him to become a guardian angel of sorts to a teenage prostitute. Now, this was actually the first Robert De Niro film that I ever watched, as I'd heard it featured a bloody and violent finale, which it certainly does. But what blew me away was the performance of De Niro, which is something pretty special here. A bubbling rage ready to spill over, which is the theme and feel of the whole film, really. Now, as much as I'm a fan of Scorsese's Mean Streets, made just a few years prior, this is his first masterwork, and likewise, this was De Niro building the foundations of one of cinema's great careers. Let's take a look. So Taxi Driver is Martin Scorsese's urban psychological drama, the tale of one of God's lonely men, as he puts it, disgusted with his surroundings and taking what his fractured mind thinks is appropriate action. Now, it's also an examination of a mid-70s New York that's rife with crime, prostitution and just filth in general. And Robert De Niro plays Travis Bickle, back from the conflict in Vietnam, where as a soldier he would have tried to bring order to chaos. And here, in his confusion, decides that it's up to him to save the city from its moral degradation.
All the animals come out at night. Whores, skunk pussies, buggers, queens, fairies, dopers, junkies. Sick. Someday a real rain will come and wash all the scum off the streets.
And do so in the only way he knows how. So he arms himself and sees both the crooks, pimps and smooth-talking politicians all as part of the same problem. So yeah, at its core, this is a vigilante movie with some similar elements to 1974's Death Wish, but this is much more of a character study, a deep dive into the fractured mind of a seemingly ordinary New York citizen who's just had enough.
This city here is like an open sewer, you know? It's full of filth and scum. And sometimes I can hardly take it. Whatever becomes the president should just really clean it up. You know what I mean?
Now, we'll get to Jodie Foster in a moment or two, but here Robert De Niro's Travis Bickle is one of cinema's great characters, and the actor takes him on an incredible arc from the lonely insomniac needing a night job to awkward romantic via his attempts to woo Cybill Shepherd, right the way through to a mohawk sporting extremist, his mood and demeanour becoming more and more erratic and dangerous. But that's the interesting thing about Bickle, and the most sinister, because he believes he's doing the right thing, the only one willing to clear the scum from the streets, and it's not until he accidentally meets a teenage runaway turned prostitute, Iris, played by Jodie Foster, that he sees he has a clear mission to rescue her from her sinful life and, of course, take out her pimp, Sport, played here by Harvey Keitel.
I'm no cop, man. Well, if you are, it's entrapment already. Huh? I'm hip. Buddy, you don't look hip.
It's odd because the scenes between De Niro and Foster, despite being essentially between a 26-year-old former Marine and a teen prostitute, display the most normal relationship in the whole movie.
Yeah, but you can't live like this. It's a hell. Girls should live at home.
Didn't you ever hear of women's lib?
What do you mean, women's lib? You're sure a young girl. You should be at home now.
I think Foster was about 12 or 13 years old at the time, but had already been acting for 7 years, so was the most experienced person on the set. Foster followed this up with Bugsy Malone and the criminally underrated and underseen The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane. As has become well documented, I think Scorsese put the young Foster in more than one compromising and uncomfortable situation on the set, but she is great here in the role and more than holds her own against a Godfather 2 era Robert De Niro. And elsewhere, of course, we have Cybill Shepherd, still quite early in her career, as Betsy, who works in the city governor's office as part of his campaign team, and bizarrely does agree to go on a date with Travis. And thus we have one of cinema's most uncomfortable date scenes as he takes her to a local adult movie theatre, just one seedy location in a film that's wall-to-wall with them.
You gotta be kidding.
What?
This is a dirty movie.
No, this is a movie that a lot of couples come to. All kinds of couples go here.
Sure about that?
Yeah.
Scorsese and his cinematographer Michael Chapman shoot the city at night, turning Times Square into this kind of gaudy parade of neon-lit pimps and pushers, and even as Travis travels out to the Upper West Side, the city's ugliness never seems to leave him. A scene featuring a cameo from Martin Scorsese himself as an unstable fare highlights it's not just Travis who's slowly succumbing to violent urges.
Do you see the woman in the window?
I have a 44 Magnum pistol. I'm going to kill her with that gun. Did you ever see what a 44 Magnum pistol would do to a woman's face?
So I love that Robert De Niro's character claims to be a former Marine, and I love that there are arguments out there that Travis Bickle has absolutely not returned from Vietnam, and that this is just one example of him being an unreliable narrator of the movie. On one hand, his attitudes and blatant racism wouldn't have been tolerated in the military, and on the other, perhaps that experience in Vietnam has made him the racist sociopath with the sleeping disorder that we have here. It's an interesting conversation, at least, but the film itself, of course, has this wild spectrum of tones. Moments between Cybill Shepherd and fellow campaign organiser Tom, played by Albert Brooks, are like an odd little comedy sitcom within the movie.
I'm terribly
Well,
Nothing.
oh, that's very cute. Thank you.
Hey, you want to see something?
Wait, I just typed, you want to see something?
And there's a voiceover from Travis running throughout the film, words from his diary and from cards that he writes to family members that I'm not sure that he's ever going to send. And take a peek at this odd moment where Travis corrects himself in his narration and the film corrects itself along with him.
Listen, you screwheads, here is a man who would not take it anymore, who would not let... Listen, you screwheads, here is a man who would not take it anymore.
Now, before I knew what Taxi Driver was and before I knew who Robert De Niro was, I'd seen images of a mohawk-wearing nutcase on posters and in books, etc. And when Scorsese slowly reveals it in the movie, it's the moment the film's been building up to, and the moment that you know Travis has gone over the top and he's about to go down the other side. And I think if the movie had been building towards a political assassination finale, it would have made an interesting and very 1970s movie still. But its genius and its infamy lie in the fact that secretly that's too broad a target for Travis to take out his rage upon, and so the film turns his vengeance dart up to 10 and beyond as he seeks out the handlers of young Iris.
Man, get out of here. Suck on this.
Now, I do have to mention here that in order to avoid a dreaded X rating, Martin Scorsese was forced to desaturate the colour of his bloody finale. And as such, there's a jarring jump in the look of the movie as Travis arrives to dish out violent justice. It's a real shame in a way, but also something that accidentally signals the almost desaturated mental state of De Niro's character. The finale of the film was and is the stuff of cinema legend. Now, one of the main things that jumps out about Taxi Driver is its music, and the music in this movie ranges from almost sleazy 70s jazz to some dread-inducing droning supplied by Uber composer Bernard Herrmann. His score here perfectly adding to the disturbing nightlife scenes in the city. At 64 years of age, Herrmann died on the night after finishing this film's score. Now, Taxi Driver was written by Paul Schrader, who's of course cornered the market in tales of troubled and twisted souls, and Scorsese himself was probably knee-deep in cocaine at this time, and somehow all of this bleeds over into the film. It feels dirty. Some of it you can almost smell the city as you watch the movie. The whole film feels odd and unbalanced, and more so as the plot moves on or disappears into chaos, ultimately as Travis and a small arsenal vent frustration and rain down vengeance upon a tenement full of lowlives. Go check it out.